think I seen you on the list there.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. We've got you on video and we can hear you, so that's great. Before we go into our story tonight, I want to just give a quick disclaimer because the stories that we share every week are unique, is a unique story from each individual who shares their product and their business opportunity. So it's essential to note that individual results in both terms of health and income can vary. And our products are intended to support overall well-being, but they are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure or prevent any disease. So these testimonials should not be considered as medical advice. These are people's experiences and people's stories. And tonight's guest is one of the, Jim, I don't know if you like this word, pioneers of Immunotec. I seen that on the poster and I thought, do you like to be considered a pioneer? But but I am
Well,
so pleased.
I have been a pioneer in more ways than one, actually.
You have, you are one of the leaders in Immunotec, at the very genesis of the company. And you don't have to be in Immunotec long to hear the name Jim Spencer. And although you and I have never met in person, I know a lot about you just from being in the company because there's lots of people that have that you've supported and connected in Immunotec. So you've not only changed the direction of your own life, but I've seen the numbers. 11,500 consultants have joined you, and you've taken them to new heights and new prosperity in their life. So, it's a real pleasure to have you on this call tonight. And it's really impressive to see people like you that have invested their entire life to this project because of its very importance. So thank you very much for joining. So before we go into, how you got started in Immunotec, what we always like to start with is the product because we all use it. So what's been your experience using Immunical?
Well, I was one of the early researchers into antioxidants. I remember having arguments with doctors in the early 70s, and they would say, antioxidants, that's a waste of time. They don't say that anymore, of course. They're probably the first ones to line up and take it. But because I had an interest in that, I had fairly good health uh, when I was exposed to Immunical. And when I started using it, I remember I think I started it on a Friday. And over the weekend, my nose ran. And I didn't have a cold. It was just, I realized later on it was like a little bit of a detox. Um, and that was it. That was about the extent of the effect. But having met Bunos personally and spending time with him, I realized that it was working at the cellular level. So in time, probably 2 months later, there was a hurricane that came into the Fort Lauderdale area. And of course, we always know a couple of days in advance of a hurricane. So I went out and put the steel shutters on 39 windows on my house. And normally that would have just wiped you out the next day. I wasn't even sore the next day.
Wow.
So I began to realize that the muscle function and recovery was way better than I was accustomed to. And then I convinced my mother-in-law to go on it. My mother-in-law was so sick that she had to move in with us. She was laying on the couch, literally couldn't get out of bed. We found out eventually that she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and arthritis. In fact, the arthritis was so bad, they had to inject cortisone into her fingers and her knees just for her to be able to move every few weeks. Well, at first, she refused everything. She says, I only take what my doctor gives me or my doctor sanctions. But one day, my kids came home with the Hong Kong flu from school, and I
Mhm.
gave it to everybody in the house, including my mother-in-law. And I didn't catch it. Now I should have caught it because they sneezed and burped and threw up all over me, but I didn't catch it. And now my mother-in-law is not a total crazy. She saw that I didn't get sick. So after she recovered, she says, maybe I'll try some of that stuff. So I mixed it up. I started giving it to her. I called Dr. Brunos personally, and he wanted to know her body weight and how old she was, everything about her. And he says, give her 2 pouches. She was a very small woman. Anyway, within a few days, she was out off the couch. By the end of the week, she was sweeping around the house. By the end of the month, you couldn't even recognize her. She was going out shopping again. And another month went by. She went out and bought her own house and moved out.
Wow.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love my mother-in-law, but I make sure she's never run out of Immunocal for the last 25 years. She gets it every month like a clock. And she got her life back. She got into real estate, got into multiple properties. She literally got her life back with this food supplement. So I said to myself, self, this is a product you can sell. And that was the beginning of 25 years of selling.
Well, your story is so amazing because you went to headquarters, but you didn't go there to join the company. How did tell the audience about how that happened?
Well, ironically, someone hired me to do an advertising campaign for Immunical. Now, at first, I turned them down. I mean, you can understand why. They told me it was a white powder that everybody that ate it, they felt better. I was living in New York, and white powder didn't have a real good connotation at the time. I totally refused to work with the project, but he kept after me for weeks and would kind of drip on me, hey, this thing just got put in the PDR. Uh, then a few weeks later, hey, this thing just got Medicare reimbursement. And I said, how is it possible for a natural product to get it? He said, send me some information. So he sends me 300 pages of clinical trials. And they didn't even send me a brochure. It took me 2 weeks just to read it. But I got fascinated with it. And when I went up to Canada to research the company, and spent a couple of days with Bunos and John Molson and Dieter Beer and Chuck Roberts and Jimmy Gutman. I met them all at the same week I was up there. I came back from a different point of view and decided, I need to get involved with this on a
So,
closer level.
so you're a professional photographer. You go to Immunotec to see about doing a photography project,
Mhm.
and you end up meeting the owners of the company and finding out everything about this product. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's what you call the backdoor method.
Really.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this, and in business, trust is really important. And one of the things that caught my attention when you were talking to me earlier this week, that you met Dieter Beer, the owner of the company, Chuck Roberts, and Dr. Gustavo Bonos himself. But when you met with them, you knew something was different, that you were experiencing something unique. And how did you feel like when they were telling you everything about this product and company? What was the feeling, the vibration that you got from them?
Well, first of all, I didn't detect any desire on their part to make money. It seemed like they were on a mission to get this product basically out to the world. Um, and that's unusual. In a startup, it was a startup company. I mean, I've been with them since they made their first million, and
Mm.
now it's hundreds of millions a year in many
Well, in
countries.
fact, you
But
made them a promise, didn't you, when you joined? You said in 6 months you would be an executive diamond, and that happened.
actually, Executive Diamond didn't even exist yet. Uh, It was
Okay.
it was I think they call it a blue label or something. It was, I did that the first month, but I told Chuck, I said, I'm not quite sure I'm going to get into this, but I'll be your biggest distributor in 6 months. And I was their biggest distributor and remained their biggest distributor probably for the next 10 years.
Look at the lives you've changed. You know, one of the things I read in the, everybody can see, oh no, you can't probably because of my blue screen, but you were in the book called The Rise of Immunotec. And I love the piece where you said that you came to understand how much work was involved in turning science into a consumer product. How did you come to that understanding? Like, what did you see? What I got from that is you felt the pain of them trying to get this to market.
Yes, and I've often said if it had been up to Gustavo, who knows, we never would have had it introduced to humans. I mean, Gus was a brilliant scientist, but he probably wouldn't couldn't sell a fire extinguisher to someone on fire. So in essence, Dieter Beer was the inspiration. He was a businessman, a consummate businessman. I got to know Dieter very well. We became good friends over the years. I've been to his house, and he's an avid photographer himself. So we were kind of kindred spirits. Anyway, Dieter realized that the only way that you're going to be able to protect this product is to get patents. And it took quite a few years, about 8 years, and about $10 million to get the pharmaceutical patents. Now, he didn't know any better than to go after pharmaceutical patents. But after all the smoke cleared, they realized if they used the pharmaceutical patents, they wouldn't be able to keep the price down for the general public. The pharmaceutical industry is regulated. They jack up the price hundreds of, even thousands of percentage points. In fact, he told me that they initially had done a license with a pharmaceutical company, and they had marked the price from $60 to $600 a box. So they did not want that to be the situation. They wanted it to be affordable for everybody. So while we have all these patents and continue to get more and more patents, we don't advertise the patents so much, particularly the pharma patents. And we've avoided making claims over the years. But ironically, the Canadian government, which, by the way, is stricter, in my opinion, than the FDA, they really saw the value of the product and permitted claims and made a special NPR number, natural product NPN number, a natural product number that permits Immunocal to make the claims that it increases immune system function, increases muscle growth. You know, that's unheard of for a natural product. But Canada led the way, which you should be proud of, because the Canadians really did the work to get this off the ground. It came to the United States several years later.
Well, the partnership with Canada and the US has been pretty powerful because we had Canadian consultants that jumped on board, but we have some great American consultants that kept this ball rolling too. And it's fascinating, Jim, because without you and a few others, we wouldn't be here talking about this right now. So you were the very beginning of getting this product out into the marketplace. And so your journey has actually been so remarkable, you know, guiding these thousands of consultants, you know, into this company and helping them, you know, change their lives. So what kind of qualities do you think it takes to be in this company and to be successful in it?
Well, first of all, it's important to get knowledge about the product, to be educated, understand it. And there's like a little bit of a curve. So if you start the curve, you're going to have knowledge right here at the beginning. And then as you start using the products, you get experience with what it can do. You also start to observe what it does to other people. And the end of the curve, you've got conviction. Uh, that's unshakable.
Right. Well, so in 2021, you were awarded the title U.S. Consultant of the Year. And so were you expecting that award, or were you caught off guard, or?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. It was kind of a shock surprise.
Well, you'd already been in the company for so many years. I mean, helping all those consultants, it was quite an accomplishment. So what's motivated you? What's kept you in this company all these years? What is your motivation for staying with it?
Well, I have a steady stream of experiences with the product. I mean, I started with my mother-in-law. In fact, I didn't have that kind of personal experience because my health was fairly good. Um, but I could share her story in the early days. But very quickly, as you started giving it to people that had serious health challenges, you started seeing incredible results. There was a young man that got a Ewing sarcoma in California, and it
And
stuck
what is
16
that?
inches.
What is that, Jim?
It's a rare childhood cancer.
Okay.
Maybe 1 in 100,000 children get it. Uh, the tumor was so big it stuck out of his side 16 inches. He couldn't even put his arm in. So he was in hospice. The doctor said, we can't do anything with this, a 16-inch tumor. Well, somebody told his mother about me. She called me, and all I did was explain about the science of glutathione and how it can produce negative feedback inhibition on cancer cells, based on the science that was already done, the patents that were awarded. Anyway, she started feeding it to him, and they took him out of hospice within a month, and things started shrinking. And by the end of the year, he didn't have anything left in his body. Now, multiply that by thousands, you get a little bit of an inkling of what I've experienced.
Yeah. Can you think of any other story?
Well, how much time do you have?
Yeah. Well, just give us one of something that just comes to your mind.
Um, I called a friend I was just talking to him about things in general, and he told me that his wife had a cyst in her mouth, and that she was going in for surgery in 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, well, you know what? Let me send you something that might be helpful for her. So I just gave him a box, sent it up, told her take 3 a day for 10 days. Maybe I sent her 2 boxes. I can't remember. Anyway, she went in for the surgery, and the doctor's in there, and he says, "Are you kidding me?" He says, "Well, where's the cyst? It's gone." So he had to cancel the surgery, send her home, right? So there's an interesting experience with just a short period of time. I had a gentleman in Fort Lauderdale that had progressed with multiple sclerosis to such an extent that he couldn't get out of a wheelchair. I just interviewed him about 6 weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in years. He's been over 20 years out of the wheelchair,
Wow.
functioning fairly well with multiple sclerosis. And it attacked his eyes. His vision was gone, but now he's able to have some return of his vision. But he's got a fairly normal life, whereas he was already in a wheelchair over 20 years ago. So you can imagine where he'd be right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and it goes on and on and on. You can almost pick any subject.
well, and what you're saying is so, so important because, we're going to live a long life. Most of us are, just because of the stats today, but it's how you live your life. And what you just explained, this fellow with multiple sclerosis, well, it's not an easy life, but his quality of life was improved so much. I mean, just being able to help people with that must be extraordinary.
Well, that's what fuels it. I mean, you just know that, the real benefits of Immunical is its preventive capabilities. So it prevents you from getting things. I can go on with lots of stories about what it did as a therapy. And in fact, the clinicals now that are coming out are now using the word therapy, using
Oh,
glutathione as a therapy. Um, and so this is a change. It's a paradigm shift. They're now not looking at it as just a scientific research study. There, and you can type into PubMed the words glutathione and therapy,
mm,
and you'll see studies and studies and studies and case studies, and um, you know uh, like uh, brain like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. They're saying now glutathione is obviously a therapy to be used for these things. And previously there was nothing. We had a interview about 2 months ago. A man had developed Alzheimer's, and he was having trouble with remembering words. Anyway, again, someone told this woman about Immunical. She put him on it, and the guy was right there in the interview saying, "Yeah," he says, "I tell you, man, it all came back." It was pretty astonishing. So you're gonna that kind of torques you up. You start realizing this is really good for people, and then yourself. I mean, my family has a history of heart disease. My brother started having heart attacks at the age of 50, and then
mm.
strokes. Uh, Now he's on Immunical now, but he lost a lot of footage. He's 10 years younger than me. And so I was told I needed to take a genetic test because his doctor said, "You better call your siblings. You have lichen factor 5." Well, sure enough, I've got lichen factor 5, but I've been able to have perfect blood pressure and
Yeah,
perfect triglycerides,
yeah.
no sign of heart disease, and I'm 10 years older than him. So, you get to override your own genetics. Genetics.
Well,
So
and
that
anybody that's
that's
new
an
on this call, Jim, meeting you for the first time, I mean, you've been on the product for years and it shows. I mean, you look so young. You look vibrant. You look healthy. You glow, is what I call it. You have the Immunotec glow. But there's way more. This is the thing about Immunotech is that all these stories of people regaining their health and getting their life back. But the other side of the story is equally as important because I'm going to speak for myself, and I think I can speak for you. There was no intention. We weren't looking for Immunotech, but what we did is we got on a product that changed our life, and we just started sharing it with people, and it took on a life of its own. So, who can you tell us a story about a consultant in your group that had a great recovery and took it as a business and is now shining and succeeding in their life?
well. There's a
You don't have
saying
to
that
name names.
actually, she's on the call tonight. I saw her listening in. There's a saying that when you discover Immunical, you start to share it with your closest friends. You start calling your family and your close friends. And so one of my close friends in upstate New York, I told him about it, sent him a box. A month later, I sent him another one. I was just sending him boxes. And I found out months later he wasn't even using it. He was giving it to somebody else that had cirrhosis of the liver. So and ultimately, the guy started getting better, and he realized, man, this stuff works. Uh, and now he and his wife are executive diamonds and have a very large organization. Uh, but it started just by sharing it with a friend.
Mm. Yeah, these stories in Immunotec are really amazing because that's exactly how it happens. So there's people on this call tonight that, are interested in our company, our products, maybe our opportunity. And so starting a business in Immunotec can be really exciting. Well, it is exciting. At least it was for me. So what is the first thing that a new consultant needs to do, or what do they need to know to get a strong foundation and hit the ground running?
Well, remember I said knowledge, experience, conviction. All right. So yeah, they should buy one of Dr. Gutman's books
Yeah.
and should read it.
There, it shows up. Yeah. It's that
Not a bad
screen.
idea to read Dr. Bunos's book, Breakthrough in Cell Defense.
Yeah.
And
That one's, you can get that on Amazon too still.
and then the history of Immunotec, Dieter Beer's book. I mean, it's amazing we even have this product when you hear about all the obstacles that those men went through. So that's knowledge. Then get on the product and start using it. All right. Fundamentally, you're never going to be able to sell anything if you don't really know what it does for you personally, and that's what gets you to the conviction part. So you understand what it does for you, you experience it, and then you know that when you pass it on to other people, you're doing them a favor. In fact, I often tell people that. So don't be embarrassed to tell people about Immunocal. You're doing them a favor. I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no,
Mm-hmm.
but that's on them. It's not on you.
Yeah. Well, Jim, it's been a real pleasure having you on the call tonight. And there's a lot of people that have listened in. And, you're always you're so easy to listen to because you're such a great orator. You can share information so well. And we really could listen to you all night. So I want to thank you so much for being our guest tonight. And like I say to all of our guests, we have to have a redo because there's so much more that we could talk about and so many directions that we could go in. But thank you so much for taking time out of your evening. And you were you were training some of your team members earlier, and I interrupted you. So I know how busy you are. So thank you for taking the time. So appreciate it.
My pleasure, Judy. And a hearty a shout out to all the people. It looks like you've got 150.
Yeah, you've got lots of comments here too.
120 people. Yeah.
122 people.
Yeah. So hello to everyone. And just use some of these experiences to recharge your batteries, get you going.
Yeah.
Jim, how about their experience with COVID? Didn't you have COVID?
I did. I was coming in from an international flight in February of 2020. It wasn't even known yet. And I think I was one of the first 10 people in the state of Florida that got it. They put me in an isolation ward in a hospital, but I wouldn't eat anything but Immunocal Platinum. It has a cytokine formula, which of course helps with preventing a cytokine storm. It can moderate that. So the doctor kicked me out of the hospital on the third day. He says, "Man, your oxygen hasn't gone below 92. I'm sending you home."
Wow.
So I went home. I had double pneumonia and high fever, but he still kicked me out of the hospital. He said, there's nothing that's going to get, if you haven't gone below 92, you go home and recover." And I did. And we've been fortunate to have an endless group of experiences of people that used Immunocal. And now there's actual clinical studies now being published that glutathione is a therapy for COVID-19. Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to end our call because it goes back to the point made earlier tonight. We need to make sure that our immune systems are functioning as best as they can. And Immunocal is the way to do that. It gives you the ingredients that your body needs to increase its glutathione, to protect your health. So I encourage everybody to, if you're new on this call, just get on the product and give it a good experience, and you'll see the difference for sure.